Our next speaker is Joe Belladonna, Managing Director of Harena Resources.
Okay, thanks everybody. Just quickly I'd like to thank Bill Rapard again and the Paydirt team for having Harena Resources here. And obviously I'd like to thank the Minister for making the long journey. Thank you, Minister Oliveri, for being here today, and his Madagascar delegation. Very, very happy to have you here. So thank you very much for that. I thought there were some excellent points that the Minister made through his speech today around the new mining code and getting Madagascar back on track. And from the investment community, and we all operate in the investment community, and we're trying to attract funding at the moment to come back into Madagascar. That gives the investment community strong belief in our ability to deliver our plans and to move our projects forward in the country. So we're really, really happy to hear that things are moving in the right direction in that way. So thank you for that. Move on now. So I've got the Harena overview there. Look, it was, I guess, outlined a little bit in the opening dialogue there, but the last 12 months we've actually got a lot of progress made at Harena. We've converted our resource into a JORC compliant resource. We've advanced to London Stock Exchange listing, and I'll talk about that at the very end, because we're currently in the fundraising process to complete that transaction. Offtake contracts. Rare earths is a relatively small industry at this stage. It's got great growth ahead of it, but it's important that you can demonstrate in your rare earths company where you're going to sell your product. And being able to demonstrate that we've got commerciality in our product and we're going to have somewhere to sell it is very important as we move forward as well. And now really, once we've completed our funding, we're ready to advance our project as quickly as we can as well. Just on this slide, and sorry, Paul already took a bit of my thunder there, but Madagascar is so incredibly located for the ability to deliver, whether you're going through sewers across to Europe, whether you're going around the Cape towards Africa, whether you're going across to Asia or Australia, your ability to ship material to any of the end users around the rare earth space is actually, it's second to none, and it's a real competitive advantage that the country has. So it's really important that I think we recognise that as we move forward, because capacity for downstream processing in rare earths is concentrated in a few locations. It is growing, but your ability to deliver to all of those out of Madagascar is really important, and it's a real advantage that we have there. Just a bit of detail across Harena itself. We own 75% of the Ampassandava ionic clay rare earth deposit. It's globally significant rare earth resource. It's one of the largest ex-China resource that we see around the globe at the moment, and it's had a lot of work done over the years in this area. It's had US $20 million spent in exploration and evaluation of this project, which has given it a resource envelope of 600,000 tonnes of rare earth oxides in situ. So we need to move those forward as quickly as we can. Importantly, baseline metallurgy work has been done. The key to any rare earth deposit is being able to recover your material and recover it into a carbonate that you can then ship off to your customers, and that work, that baseline work, has been done over the last years. So for us moving forward, we've already got a non-binding offtake agreement in place with a US-based downstream processor. We'll move that forward once we've got line of sight on product to be able to advance that contract. The mining conversion, the application is in with the ministry at the moment, so we need to do some work. We need to submit some documents to continue to advance that application, and really post-funding of our reverse takeover into London, that's the first pieces of work that we'll be doing. The environment, the actual style of operation that we're operating there, we do call it a zero harm environmental model, and it's really important, and I'll go through that in a little bit of detail, but it's one of the few mining operations that actually leaves no scars on the earth. It's really important that the critical minerals that we're producing are not adding to the problem, and our ability to do that with our zero harm mining model is really important. So I'll just move on a bit. Just around the permanent magnets that are created via rare earths, you can see the neodymium magnet there is holding far more ball bearings than the ferrite magnet, and importantly, they operate at high temperatures. So the magnets that are produced via rare earths, they're very, very strong. They operate at high heat. They've got, why they're called heavy rare earth magnets, they're actually lighter than conventional magnets. So as far as their utility in applications go, you can see they're used in wind turbines generating electricity. They're used in the motors of electric vehicles that are driving the cars. Importantly, defensive industries are a big user of rare earths. And you can see there the Collins-class submarine that I've got there. It's got 4,000 kilograms of rare earths used in every one of those submarines, which is a significant draw of rare earths heading forward. The AUKUS agreement between Australia, the US and the UK are building these machines, and they're looking at where they can secure their rare earths from as they head forward, because there are different competing geopolitical influences that are impacting the market, and everybody knows that they want to make sure they've got a supply of their defensive materials, plus also their critical minerals going into the energy transition as well. So there's a lot of I guess, movement around at the moment of deleveraging themselves from a single source of origin and making sure they've got diversity of supply of their materials. Just, I guess, the demonstration of that is the graph on gallium. There was an export ban announced by China back in September last year. Since then, the gallium price has moved, and it just shows you the influence that can be had on a relatively niche commodity that had a restricted supply. It does have a defensive application, gallium, that was being protected by the producers. You can just see what that does to prices. And if we look at, I guess, the demand expectation of rare earths as we head forward, the forecasted magnet consumption of rare earths is going in the right direction, and that's across all of the sectors that are using these materials. So the outlook for the product is very, very strong, and the Ampass-Indaba project is rightly positioned to come into production and to feed this market as we head forward. Just a quick couple of comments on the offtake, non-binding term sheet for the offtake. Again, this project has been developed over quite a few years. There were previous offtake agreements in place or agreed with offtake suppliers. So it just really demonstrates that not only back when they initially did those contracts, but even still now, moving forward, the US, Europe, Asia, and Europe are all looking for where they can actually get their products from. And there's our initial 5 years plus an option for an extension of 5 years is already put away. So our ability to sell our product has already been demonstrated, because as these projects come on, you do need somewhere to deliver your product, and they do need to be investing in downstream processing operations now, such as United Rare Earths, who are developing a recycling, separation and refining facility in Tennessee in the US at the moment. The groundbreaking ceremony has been had, and they've been securing funding going forward to continue to develop that. So as we develop, they'll be developing, and we'll join ourselves together at the end there so that we can deliver our product and they can get themselves into manufacturing as well. Just move on to the project itself. And look, the ESG is a core principle to the group. Having a Malagasy company, effectively, so it looks, feels and is operated by Malagasy people, is where we want to end up. We don't want to be bringing in a heap of expat operators to come in to run the operation. We do think that the style of operation we're developing will be able to upskill the local community quite quickly, and they'll become the major operators and the main beneficiaries of jobs and opportunities out of the project. You can see that we've already been engaging with the local communities, with Harena branded signage and the likes, and explaining how we plan to operate as we move forward. The zero impact mining model is one of the keys there. It's important that everybody understands that we're not there to damage, we're there to actually uplift everybody and improve everybody's outcome attached to the project. And where possible, we'll be prioritising Malagasy businesses for supply of equipment and those types of things to ensure that as maximum benefit can be left in country rather than just exported out. And we've got an African management team, highly experienced. They've been through many of these styles of operations and many of these types of developments before. So runs on the board, boots on the ground. We've got local presence at a board level over in the region, and that's really important as well because we can be on site in an hour. We're not 12 hours away or 24 hours away in some other foreign country. We've got someone at senior management level that can be on ground in 60 minutes if they need to be. Just highlighting where the project is and one of the natural advantages we have as being on the coast. You can see there, hopefully this works, you can see there that the actual project area is sitting in the bay. To the north you've got Nosy Be Island. There's an international airport, there's an international port in Nosy Be. So if you need to get to site you can fly into Nosy Be and you actually barge across, you ferry across to the project site. So it's actually really efficient, not having to use the road networks to traverse around. And once we go into production or once we go into development, ocean-based logistics will be the way that things come in and out of that site. Importantly, you can actually use any of the international freight ports and you can barge containers across. Most of our equipment will be containerised and most of our other equipment can be rolled on and off of barges. So we don't need deep water ports or any of these infrastructure heavy developments. We'll be able to operate on a relatively capital light basis for that infrastructure. The project itself, look, there's a few really key points here, and really it's around the simplicity of the processing and the strong recoveries that we get of the metals. So when we're talking about praseodymium and neodymium, we're talking about high 80% recoveries in a relatively short amount of time on a heap leach process. Dysprosium and terbiums are in the 70s and the high 70s. They're world-leading recoveries of these metals with a simple processing, non-toxic flow sheet. But I will take you through that. And there's been extensive work. Like I said, there's been $20 million spent on this project in the past. Importantly, we're so far advanced now that we really have a development-ready position, pending getting through regulatory permitting and being able to advance the project with funding. Just on the process itself, ionic clays versus hard rock or any of the other clay type deposits, effectively the ionic bond of the particle of the material to the clay, it's sitting on the clay. All you're doing is breaking the magnetic bond and releasing that into solution. So you're not having to break the rock apart. There's no crushing, there's no milling, there's no large scale processing infrastructure attached to these projects. We're simply pushing back topsoil, mining free dig clays, so there's no blasting, it's relatively benign in that way. We're trucking that to a centralised heap leach pad which we ring fenced, environmentally bunded so that nothing can leak from the process. They're put onto heaps, they're agglomerated with some reagent, they're irrigated with salt water. Effectively the seawater is used in the first processes of it. Ammonium sulphate is added to that process after it starts to percolate and starts to release the materials. The lixiviant or the pregnant liquor solution that's created after about 3 to 4 weeks, it's only a 3 to 4 week process here, ends up going through a nanofiltration process and a reverse osmosis process. Again, the reverse osmosis is basically dewatering the product before it goes into the precipitation plant. Fresh water is created via this, which can be then used in the mining operations, or it can be released to the local communities, any excesses there. So as we move forward, we're going to be offering a relatively simple process, non-toxic. Once we've actually finished with the heap leaches, they're washed with the fresh water, they're recovered and they're put back into the mining cavity where it came from. The topsoil is pushed back over the top and it's like you've not been there. So 3 to 4 month process from start to finish, and you can then rehabilitate or you can repurpose for agriculture. The beauty of ammonium sulphate, which is effectively a garden fertiliser, is it leaves trace nutrients in the clays. So if you want to repurpose that for vanilla bean farming or any other farming styles of operations, it can be done. If not, it can be rehabilitated back to its natural state as you found it. So it's a really simple, non-toxic process that occurs, and you're actually leaving the ground almost in a better condition than when you found it, which is the holy grail for any miner that's operating in critical minerals that's trying to make a difference to our future by the provision of these minerals, is that we're not leaving tails dams. There's no tails dams, there's no waste dumps. Most of what we mine is actually put back where it came from in the same condition as it left. So it's a really novel way of operating, and it's what actually really attracted me to the Harena story, was the ability to not only supply critical minerals, but do it in an incredibly environmentally sensitive way. Large-scale resource, the JORC resource was released in November last year, so it's a relatively contemporary resource update. 700 million tonnes of material at 868 parts per million total rare earths. 131,000 of that is in the heavy magnet metals category as well. So there's significant resources there. To give you an idea, that's about a 100-year mine life if we're operating somewhere around 5 million tonnes per year, which would be the maximum rate that we would expect to operate at. So it is a large-scale resource. Where I talk about being globally significant, it is one of the biggest that you'll find outside of China. Come on. Doesn't like me. It's stuck. Just hit one down if you can. Can you hit page down, please? Yeah, 2 minutes. I'll just continue on. Look, the current process for Harena at the moment is a London Stock Exchange listing. Oh, there we go. That's just demonstrating the red areas are high-grade areas. They'll be mined in priority. Just at the moment, we are currently in a fundraising round to fund our reverse takeover of a London Stock Exchange listed company. It is happening right at this very minute as we speak. What we actually see as an opportunity for the investment community on the London Stock Exchange is that there's many rare earth companies on the Australian Stock Exchange. In London, we would be the only pure ionic clay investment available in that market. That's what really attracted us to be up in that area. So we'll be standalone. We'll be the go-to investment for rare earths as we head forward. Look, we'll be coming on the boards at a relatively modest valuation, so we do think there's a great opportunity there. If we compare our market cap, which is on one of the lower bars on the left-hand side there, compared to the resource size that we have. If you look at that dollar per tonne of resource that we have, we've got a significantly undervalued position, and that's really where the opportunity lies. Like I said, that book build is happening right now to complete that transaction. So if anybody wants to know about any further about that, we're booth 23, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about how you can get involved with Harena. Large scale. Rare earths are going to be incredibly in demand, especially ex-China rare earths. Sustainable mining model, attractive valuations, a pipeline of news flow as we head through our gateways to get ourselves towards production, and an experienced team that are actually really serious about developing a rare earths operation out of Madagascar to benefit the Malagasy and also the stakeholders as we head forward. Thank you.